Hello, and welcome to this Position 5 guide featuring Crystal Maiden. Before I get into this, I just want to say that a lot of what I'm going to say is going to sound very specific to Crystal Maiden, or to the patch, the meta, or even my particular playstyle, but what I want you to think about is how those things apply to more than just CM, because Position 5 doesn't really change in its role and its purpose, regardless of what patch it is, but also there are concepts here that are going to help you think about Dota 2 just in general, and it's going to apply to any role, any situation that you're playing in, okay? Before I get into the specifics though, I want to talk about the types of supports that live on this spectrum. So on one side we have defense-oriented supports, and the other we have offense-oriented, and supports will move along this depending on what patch it is, but examples of defense-oriented supports are guys like this. They're characterized by being good at protecting the carry and maybe themselves. They make good trades, but it takes a long period of time. So whether that's decay stacks, or Jakiro doing small amounts of consistent damage, or Warlock just healing the carry, they're good trades, but it takes a while. Which means they're best paired with farming carries that you just want to protect, keep safe, keep healthy, like Spectre, Anti-Mage, or Medusa. This adds up to them being harder to kill, making the carry harder to kill, but also not presenting much of a threat to the enemies. On the other hand, we have guys like this. They're good at threatening kills. And they do that, and once they do that, they snowball the lane very quickly rather than over a long period of time, which means they're best paired with carries that want to do the same thing and fight early, like Juggernaut, Ursa, and Gyro. This adds up to them, and maybe their carry, being easy to kill, but also presenting a high threat to the enemies. And of course, there's guys in the middle. So Crystal Maiden turns out to be very offense-oriented, and she's best when spamming nukes and making kills happen. That might sound a little weird because Crystal Maiden is painted as the stereotypical babysitter type support, but really she should be on the attack more than just defending her carry. So when you're playing an offense support, your mentality and your principles are going to be very different than playing a defense-oriented support. Your goal is to snowball the lane as quickly and as hard as possible. So that's a pretty nebulous idea, and I want to get into the specifics of how, but first some principles about how to achieve that. First of all, the most important thing is to trade regen aggressively and efficiently. That means as soon as you show up to the lane, you're trying to make a trade happen. The offlaners, bad players, won't be expecting aggression so early, so it's doubly effective there. But ultimately what you want to do is have a single one of your tangos or a single one of yourselves be worth more than one of the enemy offlaners. A big part of that is knowing what region to start with in the first place, and knowing how the matchups work. So that can be specific knowledge, but I'm sure all of you are at the point where you can analyze these kinds of things, especially with some specific tips I'm going to get into later. And when I say aggressively, I mean you are the one who's trading your region against the enemy offlaners, not your carries. I'll get into that a bit later. The second principle is to aggressively try to gain the experience advantage, and I think the best way to illustrate this is with an example. So first a counterexample, let's say you're playing a defense-oriented support like Warlock, and your lane partner is a Spectre. Whether you are level 1 or level 2 before the enemy doesn't really matter. If you're a level 1 Warlock with a Spectre and the enemy offlaners hit level 2, they're going to cast their shit on you, but it doesn't matter because even if you were level 2, your only play is to cast Shadow Word and run away or trade some right clicks. But let's say you're playing an offense-oriented support like Shadow Shaman. You hit level 2, and you're playing a fighting carry like Gyrocopter, he hits level 2. You're both level 2 while the enemy offlaners are both level 1, and you did this by knowing the lane mechanics and shoving the wave to get level 2 before they do, okay? Now, between you and Gyro, you have 4 spells that do damage. If you just hit all 4 buttons at the same time on a single offlaner, you're gonna come out way ahead in the trade. You might not even have to trade your own regen for it. You just cast all your spells, and now that enemy offlaner is zoned, or they have to blow a bunch of their regen to stay in the lane. And this is kind of a reiteration of the first 2 points, but just don't play passive. And one very specific example of that is don't stack and pull the small camp. If you do that, you're not trading your regen aggressively. Instead, your carry is in a 1v2, probably trading their regen. At some point, you're going to have to leave the lane. You're going to have to rotate mid, you're going to have to rotate bottom, you're going to have to buy some wards and smoke and ward the enemy, jungle, or whatever. And when you do that, you want your carry to start that situation with more regen left over than the enemy offlaners have left over after trading against you, because you're not going to need regen when you're doing an offensive rotation. And a big part of this also is don't wait around for regen to kick in. This is why you don't buy clarities on offense-oriented supports. This is why you eat a tango before you start the fight so that you're staying at high HP longer and not you don't eat the tango after the fight's already done with, right? So let's talk about the starting items. This is getting a little bit specific to CM, but a lot of it does apply to other offense-oriented supports. Your main items are going to be a courier, observer, one observer, 6 tangos, and 2 mangoes. That puts you at 420 out of 600. Very nice. Leaves you with 180. And the obs and 2 tangos are going to have to go to your mid, so you're left with 4 tangos and 2 mangoes usually. That means your options are these, and your inventory is often going to end up looking like this when you leave the fountain. The items you should not buy on CM are these. Now, the Blightstone, the Orb of Venom, and the Stout Shield might work for other offense-oriented supports, but across all of them, basically, you don't want to buy the Clarity. The reason those first 3 don't work for CM are because they're very expensive and they don't enable CM to do something extra, really. It's better that she has an extra set of tangos or a salve, and that'll end up being a better trade with regen in the long run. And the Clarity just means you're sitting under tower, hoping it doesn't get cancelled. So, the considerations you have to make with your starting items, this is going to be a lot, but I'll try to go through it quickly. The first one is the enemy melee or range? If they're double range, you probably need the extra regen. You're going to take a bunch of auto attack harass. Secondly, do they rely on nukes or skill shots from Fog? If you're playing against a Pudge, a Skywrath, or a Murana, you're really going to need to buy that second ward so that you have vision on those guys. Next, 2 questions are kind of related to each other. Is the enemy harassed based on auto attacks or spells, and how easily can the enemy cancel salves? This is basically what you have to ask to figure out, I need more regen, but is that regen going to be tangos, a salve, or ironwood branches so I can super tango? If they can very easily cancel salves, don't get salves. Okay, you're not going to get the full value, and it's way more expensive than the other 2 things. If it's small amounts of consistent damage, like say Axe's Battle Hunger is being cast on you over and over, then a super tango with ironwood branches, you plant the tree and then you eat it, that's going to be more value than just having more tangos or a salve, for example. Next is how important is it to get a magic stick? If you're against Bristleback, Skywrath, Zeus, heroes like that, you obviously need a magic stick very early, basically before the creep wave really even meets. Because a good offlaner, let's say you're against a good Bristleback player, right? What's going to happen after the bounty runes is the Bristleback is not going to block his creep wave at all. He's going to let that creep wave push as far as possible and meet your creep wave close to your tower. And once it's there, he's just going to fucking spam quills. You're not going to have a magic stick, and you're not going to be able to get to the side shop to buy a magic stick even though you have plenty of gold saved up. So when you leave the fountain, I'm not saying you should buy a magic stick out of the fountain, but when you leave the fountain, you need enough gold saved up, left over, so that 1 to 2 bounty runes is enough to immediately go to the side shop and buy the magic stick before the creep waves meet. Next, is the enemy going to cut or drag creep waves? If it's like a double melee offlane or they have an axe or something like that, you probably don't need the extra regen because they're just going to cut the creep waves. Is there a fucking Sand King or Ricky or other Invis hero? If this happens, you need to buy 2 sentries, and it sucks. But the Sand King or the Ricky is going to bring their own sentry, and it's going to be on you to place the first one, then they're going to deward that one, then you need to place your second one to get rid of theirs, so you can actually fucking do something about them. And lastly, does the enemy have a particularly fast position 3 or 4? And by fast, I mean movement speed. If they can get to the lane very quickly, much faster than you, they can put a ward in a good ward spot and see you coming with your ward, and you're not going to be able to place your ward without being spotted. However, you can mind game that a bit by bringing a sentry and expecting them to do this, and then, try to deduce where they place their ward and then deward it. So now we're going to get into picking Crystal Maiden's starting skill. This is going to sound very specific to CM obviously, but the questions you're going to ask here apply to basically any hero. So I assume most of you know the differences between Nova and Frostbite. There's probably some that maybe you're not fully aware of about, like, one grants True Sight, the other one doesn't, shit like that. But I'm going to talk about the priorities in order of what you should consider. The number one priority, this might sound strange, but is securing the range creep, and Crystal Nova is the ability that lets you do that. If the enemy offlaner has much higher base damage or a Quelling Blade than your carry, and your carry is ranged and doesn't have a Quelling Blade or doesn't have a nuke to do it himself, you need to secure that for them. And in the process of doing that, you're probably going to hit one or two of the enemy offlaners, which is a great trade for you. And secondly, securing the range creep secures the experience and gold advantage for you that I talked about being so important. Secondly, you need to consider kill potential on a single target. This is actually less important than getting the range creep, because this is much riskier, right? You don't know for sure that you're gonna get what your kill potential is, but it's very easy to know that for sure if I cast Frost Nova, I'm gonna get the range creep. So the things to consider here are whether the person you want to frostbite has a mobility skill or if they have an ally with a save ability. Next, I talked about this already, but harass on multiple targets. Nova, obviously the same amount of mana for Frost Nova, whether it's one target or two targets or three targets, does the same amount of damage, which is great. And next, you need to think about which of these abilities is going to save yourself or the carry if they're caught out of position. Obviously don't get caught out of position, but sometimes it'll just be a forced situation. Now, in order to do this, you need to visualize when you leave the fountain what the enemy offlane is going to look like. So, for example, let's say the enemy offlane has two heroes and one of them is a Dispeller, like Legion Commander, Omni Knight, or Abaddon. And that's pretty common these days. Those are common offlane picks. So, if you frostbite one of those guys, they're going to get dispelled by the Dispeller, and then they're both going to run at you. But if you frostbite both of them, they're both slowed for 4.5 seconds, and they can't both be dispelled, so Frost Nova is a better pick in that situation. Now let's think about another common offlane pairing, which is a proximity-based stun, which is a hero like Centaur, Slardar, or Sand King, paired with an unreliable stunner nuke like Pudge, Lina, or Leshrac. Obviously, the proximity-based stun is going to set up for the other guy, but if you root them before they can get to you, then you're going to save yourself. So Frostbite is better in that situation. If in doubt, just get Frost Nova because it secures the range creep. Now, at level 3, obviously at level 2 you're going to get the point in Aura. So at level 3 you need to consider, am I going to get the other nuke, or am I going to get an extra point in Aura, or am I going to double down in the nuke that I already have? So first of all, you need to think about how much Aura will benefit your other lanes. If you have like an OD mid, he doesn't need your Aura. Okay, if you have like, I don't know, it's like Centaur bottom, he doesn't really use mana either, so don't worry about it. But otherwise, a point in Aura might be great. When you hit level 3, you can sit on that skill point for a few seconds and think about, if I got a second nuke right now, or a stronger nuke of whatever I have already, can I get a kill right now? So sit on that skill point, because you're not going to cast the nuke immediately, probably, so just put the point in when you need it. And next, am I going to die or suicide soon? So if you're sent back to the fountain for whatever reason, you're going to have full mana, and you can TP to a different lane, maybe unexpectedly, with both of your nukes up and get a kill that way. So think about that. Now, this is the part where I'm going to start talking about a replays, and there's just going to be a shitload of information. So, like I said, don't focus too much on what the things I'm talking about are important, but rather why those things are important and how to figure out in other situations why those things are important and what they are. And think about the support mentality, how it applies, what's the most you can do in 5 minutes. Okay, so let's get into some replays. Okay, in this first replay, obviously I'm playing Crystal Maiden, and my lane partner is a Slark, and my mid is a Storm Spirit. Offlaners are Razor and Skywrath, and that'll come into play pretty important in this game. So, right out of the bat, you have to think about what the enemy offlane, or what the enemy lanes look like. And most importantly in this game is the fact that the enemy has a Nature's Prophet. And Nature's Prophet is a real motherfucker in a tri-lane, or even a dual lane, because his summon treants are basically having an extra hero in that lane. They're the ones who are going to be tanking the creep wave when they're right-clicking you. They're going to be in your face. You're going to have 3 fucking range heroes, Shadow Demon, Morphling, and the Prophet, who happens to have a Blightstone even, all clicking you, while they're not trading anything. These things are fucking free. They're not using their region to click on you while you are getting wrecked in the face and using your region for it. So off the bat, I'm kind of wondering, like, is this Prophet going to be bottom or top? But regardless of which one it is, Honestly, the best skill to use early on is going to be Crystal Nova because you're going to hit multiple heroes if they are tri-laning and you go to the tri-lane. Or there's Treants and you want to hit the Treants too. Additionally, securing the range creep is very critical here because those Treants are such a powerful zoning tool that it's going to be hard for you to hit the range creep, for your carry to hit the range creep in fact, so you're going to have to do it for them. Now, I want to talk a bit about the sentry that I bought and why. So, off the bat, if they're dual-laning top, which would be, in this case, Brewmaster plus Nature's Prophet, or Brewmaster soloing it, in both of those cases, having the pull camp available as an option is kind of important, even though I said earlier that stacking and pulling the small camp isn't great. Because let's say bottom is surprisingly just going fine, but so I don't have to go down there, and I can stay top, and the pull camp is blocked. If that's the case, I just have to try to trade against the Brewmaster, who might have overbought regen. In this case, he didn't, but I don't know that. If he overbought regen, then he's fine. Like, he's a pretty tanky, survivable offlaner. He can get Drunken Brawler to, dodge auto attacks for like, very consistently. And like he can just play safely by thunderclapping for CS, running in and out of the trees until he has a good level advantage, and then playing aggressively from there. So he wants to block the pull camp, and I know that, so I'm going to buy the Sentry Ward. Turns out he's not actually going to do that this game, but that's the reasoning behind getting the Sentry Ward. So this is my perspective. I'm checking that. Okay, now I saw that Nature's Prophet started bottom, and he had Treants there. He's not going to walk all the way top, or even blow his TP to summon more Treants top. He's going to want to secure bottom first. So, in this situation, what I want to do is I need to get to the tri lane as soon as possible. But before I do that, I have to secure top lane for my Slark. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the Brewmaster. I think I did it before I paused right here, but he has 2 sets of Tangos, Stout Shield, Salve, and a Mango. That's a pretty standard amount of offlaner regen. So we're going to have to be pretty aggressive here, and the Slark and I both know this. We're both good players, so that's what we're going to do. Now, we immediately start going on him, and Essence Shift is great for this. Importantly, since Essence Shift is a factor in this lane, you don't want a Crystal Nova first, even though it slows. You want a Crystal Nova after Essence Shift has taken away some of Brewmaster's stats so that it does more, okay? And now, if we continue watching how this lane turns out, I'm going to continue harassing him. I haven't spent anything except some mana. I haven't used a Tango yet, but we're forcing Brewmaster to wait on his Tangos. Now he's playing passively, even though he's the solo offlaner here, and he needs to get CS to have a presence in this lane. Now, this is going to sound a little crazy, and this is very specific, very high level knowledge, but this situation right here, I know that this is enough for me to leave this lane and Slark is going to win this lane or at least come out even. And I'm going to talk in detail about why that's the case later, but first, since I know that this lane will be fine, I TP bottom right now. I considered nuking the Brewmaster one more time, but then I'd have to eat a mango afterwards just the TP, and then eat another mango just to cast a spell, so I didn't. So I show up in this lane, they don't know I'm here, they're going on my Razor, I eat a mango, I Crystal Nova 2 heroes plus all the Treants, and I get the last hit, First Blood. Now the Razor plays very well here, by just barely surviving with a Salve. And I'm able to get the nuke and the double kill on the Morphling. So here's an example of game-specific matchup knowledge that helps a lot in this situation. Morphling's level 1 attribute is terrible. It shifts 1 point of agility or strength per second, which is basically nothing. Okay, when he's level 2, he's going to get waveform and have an escape. And when he hits level 3, he's going to put his second point into attribute shift. Now, 4 strength or agi per second is actually a lot. But at level 1, he's not going to be able to do that shit where Morphling suddenly has 10 million HP and you can't kill him. So knowing this, you can play aggressively on him and get a kill. Now, I said when I rotated bottom that I knew top would be fine, so let's rewind a bit to the point where I left the lane. So let's go to my perspective. Actually, free cam for a second. So Brewmaster, he spent 1 tango, I saw that. Slark has spent nothing. He's literally completely full. And I'm also basically full, minus this. But I'm going to leave the lane in a second here. And we're going to switch his perspective to Slark. And we're going to talk about how he plays aggressively as a fighting carry in this situation. First of all, he's gonna miss some CS, which is embarrassing. Very embarrassing. But now watch what he does here. He knows I'm leaving. Brewmaster does not know I'm leaving. I'm still in fog here, right? Now, it's in his interest here to get level 2 first. So if we analyze the XP, like obviously Slark and I split the first wave of XP, but Slark actually has 3 denies and Brewmaster has nothing. So actually, they're actually pretty even in XP. And Slark, knowing that Brewmaster hasn't gotten any CS and that Slark has some denies, knows he can hit level 2 first. And the fact that we both aggressively went on Brewmaster at the beginning when the lanes met helps with that, because when we're clicking Brewmaster, we're aggroing the enemy creeps, so the creeps are hitting us instead of our creep wave, while our creep wave is not taking damage. So that wave is going to push just a little bit, just enough, so that if you can put yourself in a situation where you're going to hit level 2 first. So we're going to see what happens here. Slark is playing aggressively. He gets level 2, immediately skills Pounce, and then goes on the Brewmaster. Fuck the CS. We're trading here, and obviously the action's happening bottom, meanwhile. So he's forced Brewmaster down, more HP, more essence shift stacks, and then he identifies that this is a situation where he can go on the Brewmaster again, because the Brewmaster's still low from the earlier skirmishes, and essence shift makes this pretty simple, and he's able to get a solo kill on the Brewmaster just because of how we played the first like 15 seconds of this lane. So now Slark is doing amazing top. We just got a double kill bottom. The kind of losers of the situation on our team are going to be our mid and our Razor, but there's ways to salvage that, and of course you should trash talk whenever possible. Razor spent like 30 seconds walking back to Fountain at 1 HP, so Storm's just going to pay the price for that because there's a Brewmaster in this fucking game. Bloodseeker. Bloodseeker loves being in a tri-lane versus tri-lane game because there's always just going to be a bunch of low HP heroes, and he benefits greatly from that. Now, as the Razor's coming back into the lane, there's a triple ranged wave here, which is going to be a shitload of XP and possibly farm for the Razor. If Razor were a slightly different hero, Skywrath and I would have just left the lane and let him get this, but the thing is, Razor is fucking dog shit at CSing at level 1, so it's just a fucking free-for-all right now. Like, the supports are trying to get the CS. I take that one, because Razor just sucks at it. But now that the melee creeps are thinning out, I'm going to leave the lane, or I'm going to move away from XP range, so that Razor can get more of the XP from the range creeps. But now I'm in an awkward situation where I have a bunch of gold, but not the boots or a TP scroll, so I have to evaluate what I want to do. I could go mid to try to kill the Bloodseeker, but Bloodseeker is always going to be fast. Again, it's a tri-lane game. And he just solo killed the Storm Spirit, so he's probably going to get some regen out, or just regen off the creep wave so he's full. And I'm still level 2, I don't even have Frostbite. We're not going to get a kill or even meaningful harass on the Bloodseeker. I could try to go top, but I'd probably be walking past a ward, and I don't have boots or TP, so it's going to take forever. So instead, I'm going to stay bottom, but what can I do while I'm here bottom? Well, I still have the sentry ward from top, and this is a kind of a high-level play you can do, is you can threaten to, well, you're trying to deduce where the enemy ward is, and part of what you can do with that is you try to threaten to pull the enemy creep wave out of the lane. So you move into this situation to threaten it, and lo and behold, the Shadow Demon just walks over here like he fucking knows I'm here. So I'm thinking, okay, I took this path from the tier 1 to the secret shop to where I am now, and he seems to know that I did that and that I'm over here. So I could place the sentry down to try to de-ward, but he could deny, maybe, or just, I don't know, disrupt me and then do something about it. So I think instead of doing that, and I'm not even sure where the ward is, I'm going to try to just bait the Shadow Demon away from the wave. So that's what I do. And I hear my teammates are going on the Morphling. Now at this point, the Morphling is close enough to his tower and attribute morphing that he's going to be fine, so we rotate to go on the Shadow Demon instead. And meanwhile, if you're looking at my mouse movements, I'm clicking the Shadow Demon and pinging his magic stick count. It just looks offset because of this replay thing. Now, here I've communicated to the Skywrath the fact that Shadow Demon has quite a few stick charges. Shadow Demon misplays a little bit here by disrupting. The reason he does that though is because he's calling for his Nature's Prophet to come in and help kill the Skywrath. But the reason all these things are important is because Skywrath and I both know that Shadow Demon has a bunch of stick charges. If I Crystal Nova him, and then there's some kind of delay before Skywrath Arcane Bolts him, then Shadow Demon will have time to use his Magic Stick, and he'll survive the Arcane Bolt and then just run into these trees and be fine. We're not going to get the kill. So, because because we both know he has stick charges, we know we have to nuke him at the exact same time. I'm waiting for Skywrath to do that. We both nuke him, he dies. We also get the kill on the Prophet because, I mean, I don't think Prophet expected that. And that's kind of why I said that the disruption was a bit of a misplay. Okay, so we're going to speed this up a little bit. Again, I'm reevaluating what am I going to do. Am I going to go mid? No, the situation there hasn't really changed. Am I going to go top? Situation there hasn't really changed, and Slark is completely fucking fine. So I'm going to stay bottom. The Shadow Demon TP'd here. I don't think he expected me to still be here. We're able to get an absolute shitload of harass on him. He doesn't die because he still has those stick charges, but he's very low at this point. Okay, now I'm re-evaluating what I can do here. Now, I'm close to level 3, Skywrath is close to level 3. There's a kill opportunity once we hit level 3 by getting the experience advantage. So, we're going to speed this up just a little bit. Skywrath is just kind of fucking with them, wasting their time. Meanwhile, because he did that, our creep wave is shoving in, and at some point, that means their next creep wave is going to shove out and put them into a vulnerable situation. Meanwhile, they're still low HP and under tower, and they're not salving, so it feels very awkward and dangerous for them to see us even under tower. But because of those movements we made, the lane has to push out now, and they have to put themselves in harm's way, so I'm going to sit in the trees here. Whoops. Now, I'm intentionally keeping myself out of XP range because it's more important for Skywrath to hit level 3 than me, so I know the status of the creep waves, I know the status of my Skywrath. I'm waiting to see them. I look at the creep wave, and I know it's going to die soon. That creep's going to die. That's enough for Skywrath to get level 3. He just hit level 3. And we get the silence. Whether we silence the Morphling or the Shadow Demon first is kind of irrelevant. We'll get a kill on either of them, whichever one isn't saved. And even if Morphling got disrupted there, he would still die afterwards because we'd all have caught up to his position and waveform level 1 doesn't reach, or waveform isn't going to reach far enough to escape. So that is how to use all these lane mechanics to bait the enemy or to force them into situations they don't want to be in, and using just like minute amounts of XP, even in a trial lane on trial lane, to get an advantage here. Now we're gonna get the bounty runes, but let's just see like the status of the lane. So look at this, Razor has this much XP, Skywrath and I have this much. Even though we were level 2 when Razor spent 30 seconds walking back to Fountain, Razor's now more than caught up. He's past us, and he's going to farm this lane. And even though he currently has a little bit less, actually he has a little more CS, I guess, than the Morphling, we have zoned the Morphling so fucking hard, and we can continue to do that because we have this threat of the silence. He has to preemptively start morphing strength. So it's going to be very awkward and difficult for him to play. And we've already kind of shit on the Shadow Demon and the Nature's Prophet. Now, mid is a fucking problem, but we deal with it by just like rotating. We end up winning this game, but within the first 5 minutes of this game, what have I accomplished? I've set up a situation where my Slark and I have traded very efficiently against the Brewmaster and against bottom. When I came bottom, I Crystal Nova'd multiple heroes and the Treants, got a double kill. The Mangoes enabled that, where Clarities would not at all have enabled that. So yeah, within 5 minutes, we've basically won top and bottom, and now we're free to deal with mid or keep threatening one of these other lanes. So that is this replay. Okay, so in this second replay, obviously I'm playing Crystal Maiden again. My lane partner, my carry, is this Troll Warlord. We've got a Bristleback, a Wyvern, and a Viper. I'm gonna start with like a decent amount of regen, but I need to buy the second Obs Ward because the enemy offlane is gonna be this fucking duo from hell, Slardar plus Skywrath. Now, Skywrath is one of those heroes I talked about who's a very fast position 3 or 4, so he can get to this lane much faster than my fucking 277 Swift as Wolves of Ice Rack hero can. So he can get here and he can place a ward or get into a spot to place a ward to spot me first. So I'm not gonna run out there. But the thing is, here's a couple things to know about Skywrath. He's a hero who likes to cast nukes from fog, right? If he's, for example, standing right here, Troll and I are standing here, and Skywrath is casting his nukes on us from here, like this. Now, Magic Stick only gets charges for spells that are cast within your vision. So if he's standing here and casting us and we don't have vision of him, then we're not going to get stick charges from that. Now, the shitty thing is that while he's standing here, he can click on us here and see that we're getting stick charges, which means he knows that somewhere along here is a ward and he can deward us, which sucks. But the thing is, you need to get the stick charges you can get while you can get them, so you need to buy that Obs ward. And the sentry is because Skywrath is a very fast hero and he's probably going to place a ward, so there's going to be a deward opportunity. A common place that Skywraths like to put wards is like here, so if you're standing back here, he can still see you and nuke you. And that's one way to deduce where that ward is. But anyways, the game is about to start, so I am going to switch to my perspective here. The reason I get Crystal Nova is because the #1 consideration is securing the range creep. Now, Troll Warlord does have a slight range nuke that he can CS with, but it's not as good and reliable as Crystal Nova, so that's why I get it. And of course, Sardar has high base damage. He's probably going to get a Quelling Blade. It's going to be easy for him to deny the range creep. And we might be getting zoned by the Skywrath and his Arcane Bolts a lot. So again, it's going to be hard to be near the range creep to CS it without Crystal Nova. So I'm here hanging my ass out. We have a bunch of slows here. We have triple slows. So Skywrath is a kill target. He doesn't know we're here. Great. We have the kill. And you may have missed it, but I'm clicking and pinging that the Sardar is getting bash charges during this. So because he got 3 auto attacks off, I don't go for the rune because he'll just bash me and get the rune anyway. And we're able to chase him down. Now I clicked him again to ping that he has a healing salve. And knowing that, because I have mangoes instead of clarities, I can eat a mango, nuke him, get first blood. Now here's something interesting. I talked a lot just now about placing the Obs Ward to get stick charges from Skywrath. However, I have been clicking him, and I know that he in fact has just only 2 mangoes and not the clarity. So, and he knows that I'm going to be able to buy a stick here. And knowing that, this is actually the Skywrath from the last game, he's a really good Skywrath player, he's actually going to spend a lot of his mana casting on us while we don't have a stick. This is his way of aggressively trading regen. He's thinking about the exact same principles that I am. So, instead of using the ward up there, I place it here while he isn't sure that I'm going to do that. Sardar's bullshit and maintains his 3 fucking bash charges, even though he died, so he's going to bash me and they're going to kill me here. But I mean, whatever, I participated in 2 kills. I got the last hit on one of them. I'm feeling fine. I just barely buy a stick before I die, so I don't even lose any gold. So I'm gonna come back to lane. And now my objective here, like, let's look at the status of the lane real quick. So Sardar blew his salve, I know that. He's eaten some tangos, I know that. Skywrath bought a stick, but doesn't have a clarity to work with, and he nuked us a bunch of times here because we didn't have a stick at that time. He wanted to trade aggressively back then when he's not going to give us stick charges. So he's sitting kind of low mana. And here I am, full everything obviously, and Troll is doing fine. He also has a stick, I know that. I have a stick, we're doing fine. So yeah, we're going to let the lane play out a bit. Now, what I want to do here, obviously, is #1, like I said, secure the range creep. Troll's getting zoned, this range creep's about to die, I have to put my ass out here to get the last hit. And of course I get harass on the Sardar, which is fucking great. Because he's slowed, and because Skywrath's not so great at lasting range creeps, we get the deny on that. Now, we're doing great. Keep going here a little bit. I don't mind getting clicked, I have a bunch of regen. If we switch to my perspective, I'm constantly clicking the Sardar to check how many bash charges he has. That's extremely important. Alright, Troll uses his nuke to get that range creep. Okay, now let's think about the situation that the lane is in. Okay, we got some kills early, but we split them with Winter Wyvern. And level 1 kills barely grant any XP, really, and we split it 3 ways. Um, but because we were able to secure the range creeps and deny one of our own, and we used our nukes to both harass, zone, and get last hits, we have both hit level 2 before the enemies have hit level 2. In fact, they're still kind of far from it. They need a range creep plus a little bit more to get there. And Slardar is running low on regen, and I know that. And I know Skywrath, he has some stick charges and a decent amount of regen, but not as much as he would probably like. So this lane's continuing to go. Look how fucking low they are, and look how scared they have to be. And think about how dangerous of a lane like Slardar Skywrath usually is. Skywrath is fucking spamming and keeping you low. Slardar is constantly threatening to bash you with 3 charges and then crush you to kill you. And yet, because of the way we've manipulated the lane with lane mechanics, securing the range creep, all those things I talk about, trading aggressively, they're the ones who have to play scared here. And they have to back off. Like, look how far back they are. As soon as I start moving down here, they're like, okay, we might fucking die if we get Crystal Nova'd, and then Troll throws his axes, and we're slowed, and we're just gonna die. Okay, so they have to play scared. And they just kind of have to wait for the wave to come in. So I'm gonna speed this up a bit, because nothing interesting happens for a little bit. It's just kind of more of the same. So I've kind of baited the Skywrath away by, like, threatening to do a pull. So he comes running over here, and we almost get a kill, but Troll misses his fucking throwing axes or whatever, so... Okay, now let's analyze this situation. This is a weird stalemate that could go nowhere. Like, I'm not supposed to be able to kill the Skywrath unless he misplays, and Skywrath can't kill me unless I misplay. That's the situation. And there's no fucking creeps or anything to do out here, no objectives at all, except each other. Now, Troll's gonna go back to the lane, and I know he's gonna be fine. So when you're in this situation, you have to analyze, is this weird stalemate better for my carry, or is it better for their carry that we're not there? It turns out that in this situation, it's fine. It's better for my carry, because I know he's in a better spot, XP-wise and regen-wise, against the Slardar. And he's been playing well, like he's using range form and whirling axes and all that shit. So I'm choosing to, okay, let's just do this awkward ass fucking dance. We're like kind of committing, we're moving at each other, he realizes he's gonna lose the trade. I'm clicking on him, checking his stick charges, making sure he doesn't have a salve that he can pop. And he's obviously just gonna try to deny to Roche, so I eat my second mango, boom, get another kill. So the first mango I ate got the kill on Slardar through his healing salve. The second mango I ate got a kill on Skywrath when he was trying to deny himself to Roche. Mangoes are fantastic items. Meanwhile, like I said, I figured that the Troll would be fine in this lane. And look, he still had a salve, he still had stick charges, he's getting passive from my aura, and he's got tangos. And Slardar is out of regen against my Troll. So that gambit I made about doing an awkward stalemate dance with Skywrath worked out completely fine. At this point, I just bought out my boots because I'm like, okay, I'm just going to suicide to the tier 2. And a misplay happens here. So I'm like hearing all this fighting going on and seeing that Slardar is low. I was like, oh, I can just go get another kill. Unfortunately, I'm not there for the Troll. What I should have done is just suicided and then bought a salve, TP'd back to lane, used it on my Troll Warlord, recovered the lane that way. Now, as soon as this courier comes into vision, I know I'm fucking dead without clicking it, because it's going to have a salve on it, obviously, for the Slardar, and then he's going to run me down and kill me, because he's level 3 now, he has sprints. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to trade as much as I can before I die, here we go. Blah. I almost juke it, but I don't have boots, he has sprint, obviously it's just gonna, you know, go better for him. Let's see, so continuing onward. That's essentially the first 5 minutes of this game. It's kind of just more of the same, like now I'm buying wards to go place them and shit. So now I'm gonna get into demo mode to show you why I chose to get Frostbite at level 3, even though there wasn't particularly a kill opportunity there, which is the main reason you would get Frostbite. So I was going to suicide, so that's one reason I got Frostbite, because I would go back to Fountain and then have mana for both of my spells and all that. But Frostbite is good against Slardar for reasons I will show you in demo mode, and I want you to think about like the principle behind what I'm going to tell you there and how it can apply to other heroes, not just Slardar. Okay, so that's the first 5 minutes of this replay. Obviously top lane's going really well. I haven't rotated, but I mean, Yeah, top lane, I've played aggressively as fuck, traded region as much as I can. We used the lane mechanics to get the XP advantage, got some kills, the mangoes helped out. All of those things I talked about factored into the first 5 minutes of this game. Okay, we're in demo mode, and we're going to talk a bit about how Sardar ideally wants to kill you and how Frostbite helps a lot with that. So, first of all, let's say that Sardar is level 3, and he has 1 point in each of his abilities. That's pretty standard. He's going to charge up 3 bash charges on the creep wave, and he's probably going to have boots by this point. Meanwhile, you're playing Crystal Maiden. You are also level 3 because you have been properly using all those lane mechanics and aggressive trades to keep up an XP. But let's say you haven't skilled Frostbite yet, okay? Now, this is how Sardar wants to kill you if you're ever slightly out of position. So, let's say you're out of position here and your safe point is over here, so you need to run that way. You start running that way. Sardar, meanwhile, he hits you first to bash you, hits you again, crushes you, that slows you, that's 2 hits, 3 hits, another one, and then a bash before the slow from Slitherine crushes over. That's the maximum amount of lockdown and damage that Sardar can do to you. So, to kind of reiterate what exactly happened there, oh god. He first hits you with 3 charges and that stuns you. Then he does another melee attack before Slitherine crushing you. And then once you're stunned from that, he'll get a second bash charge by hitting you again. And since you're slowed, he can easily get a third and a fourth to bash you a third time. So that's 3 different stuns and the maximum amount of damage that Sardar can do to you in this situation at level 3. Now, the important thing about Frostbite is not only does it root, it also disarms, and in order for Sardar to keep up with you, he's going to have to Slitherine Crush while he's disarmed. So that's what this looks like. Let's say you're caught out of position, he runs at you, you Frostbite him, he crushes you to keep up, otherwise you're going to get away, and now he's keeping up with you like this. And it's much easier for you to get away. So obviously that's a bit of a contrived example, but the core principle is this. If he opens with Slitherine Crush instead of the 3 charge Bash of the Deep hit that stuns you, he stuns you with this, and then his next hit also stuns you and overlaps a little bit, or just is overall just less overall lockdown. And then it's less time that you're slowed for him to build up another 3 bash charges to bash you the next time. So it's much easier for you to get away, and that's why you want to get Frostbite at level 3 against Slardar specifically. Maybe even get it at level 1 depending on what his lane partner is, right? So these are the kind of things you want to keep in mind. It does sound specific to Slardar, but it can apply to a lot of different heroes and situations. As Frostbite even has other components, like it grants true sight of your target for the duration that they're frostbitten or whatever, and getting extra points in it, like getting it to max level where it's a 3-second route instead, can also make a huge difference. Whereas with Crystal Nova, the duration is always 4.5 seconds, so maybe you want to think about how that duration factors in versus Crystal Nova in certain matchups. Okay, in this game I am obviously playing Crystal Maiden. I start with 3 sets of tangos, give some to my mid and the ward. My carry is a Naga, and importantly she didn't buy a salve, which I consider a mistake. It turns out not mattering in this game, but I do consider a mistake for reasons I'll get into. And we happen to have a Riki in this game. So what I'm going to talk about in this game is awkward fucking situations that can happen. And there's 3 major ones that will happen. So the first awkward situation is they don't have a clear mid hero, and they have 2 standard offlane heroes. So we don't know what their lanes are. In that situation, you basically need to start running simulations in your head about like what the fuck could happen. So let's do that right now. What could their offlane be? Well, worst case scenario, most dangerous for us is Pango, Oracle, Venge. That is a lot of fucking nuke damage that is basically unmissable. Like stun, swashbuckle, nukes, dispels, roots from Oracle. It's extremely dangerous. But if that happened, then what happens to the other 2 heroes? That means we have an Ench mid or a PA mid, and then the other one's solo safe lane. And that's pretty terrible, especially against an Axe. So it's probably not that, is basically what I'm getting at. So most likely, it could be a tri-lane bottom, but it won't consist of a Pango. Even though Pango is very good against Naga at all stages of a normal game, it seems unlikely that it'll happen here. So that means it could be an Ench +1 or a PA +1 offlane. And in either of those situations, you don't really need a salve. But since it is sort of an unknown situation, picking up an extra set of tangos is kind of what you want to do. But regardless, no matter what it is, it's not like they have a battle hunger or something to just constantly fuck with you and prevent a sal from going off and like you needing to buy iron branches for super tangoing. But luckily we do have a Riki in this game, and he scouted out that it's a Pango mid, so that kind of answers one question for us. Now, one thing that high-level Riki players like to do is not buy regen, because for some reason this hero has a lot. It has 5 HP per second innate, which is a lot for the rat bastard of a hero that he is. I don't know why that's the case, just it is, and he has an insane health regen talent level 10 too. But anyways, that's off topic. The point is, he doesn't have any regen. I don't have a salve. Naga doesn't have a salve. We're not going to contest the rune. We're just going to ask Riki to steal it and do the best that he can. But we get to see all their heroes. We get to see what they have. So we luckily get the steal. That's great. Again, don't contest if you don't have the regen to do it, or the skills, or the stuns, whatever. Now I'm still holding the skill point because I don't actually know what's happening. Go to my... Like, I don't know if there's going to be a TP rotation from the Avenge or the Ench or some kind of weird rotation happening, so I'm still holding onto that skill point. This is still kind of the first awkward thing that I talked about that will happen in this game. Luckily, again, we have a Riki to scout them out, and we saw that they didn't have any sentries on them, because I don't think they anticipated that the Riki would start bottom. I buy a stick here. I immediately skill Frostbite when I see that they are not tri-laning yet, and they don't have Venge here to stun or Ench here to heal or anything like that, so we get the kill. Another consideration for getting the Frostbite there is that the slow from Crystal Nova is a little redundant to go with Riki's Orb of Venom, so it's not really needed, and we don't need to secure the range creep because A, there's 3 of us, and we just got a kill, so again, not really needed. Okay. Now, here's a second awkward situation that I talked about, is you're going to get into these cases where you're not sure if you can get a kill or not on this. Like, it doesn't matter what the situation is, but let's say you just don't know if you can get the kill or not. 9 out of 10 times, you should just fucking go for it. Especially in a case where it's 2 supports against a core. The commitment I have to make here is click the PA a lot and possibly and eat a mango and go for the Frostbite. That is the question. Like, is this worth going like eating a mango for? And 9 out of 10 times you just fucking go for it, whether you know it or not. So I eat the mango, Frostbite. We try to click her down. It turns out we can't get the kill. But even though that's the case, this is still a 9 out of 10 worth for us, because I've basically traded a mango on Crystal Maiden, who fucking gets Arcane Aura at level 2, for a salve, which is a more expensive item than a mango, on fucking on a core, on PA. Yeah, so completely worth. 9 out of 10 times, just go for it, even if you don't know if you can get the kill. Even if you're not sure you can, even if you like know for sure you can't get the kill, it may be worth it. Okay, third awkward situation that can happen sometimes in games is an early offlane safe lane rotation by the enemy team. So what I mean by early is the fact that we're running a tri-lane, so we're splitting XP among 3 heroes, and we're all level 1 still, and Ench is level 2. And we don't know how close to level 3 she is. But anytime this happens, you need to just fucking attack that hero who just rotated. You just need to commit whatever the fuck you have, all your mana, your regen, just fucking go for it, sacrifice the CS even. Because when this happens, it could be an Ench, it could be a Timbersaw, an Underlord, something like that. If they get, they're 1 level ahead of you, right? If they get 2 levels ahead of you, the game's fucking over. A Timber that's 2 levels ahead of you will destroy you. An Ench that hits level 6 while you're level 4 will destroy you. An Underlord who gets to freely nuke the wave and then get a quick mana boots, and he has a Quelling Blade, he last hits, or his right click is like over 100 damage while yours is like bullshit, will destroy you. So as soon as she shows up, we're like, okay, we just have to go on her. Luckily, like, all 3 players are on the same page about this. We just commit literally fucking everything we have to try to kill her. We don't get the kill, but we do succeed in zoning her out. Like, she is zoned out while these creeps, although they're not getting denied, she's outside of XP range for them, right? Another note about Ench, because she's a popular pick, is that at level 2, she's pretty weak. Level 1 Untouchable is not great, level 1 Heal is not great, but as soon as she hits level 3 and gets a second skill point in either of these, it completely changes. level 2 Untouchable goes from a 20 attack slow to a 70 attack slow. It's more than triple. It's very difficult to kill her. And in this case, like, it's obviously the thing she would get because we have illusions, and it just, like, incredible value against illusions, right? Nature's Attendance level 2 is great, but in this situation, it's not what you would go for. So, again, the point I'm trying to make, difference between level 2 and level 3 Inch is huge. Now, I talked about earlier about how as an offense-oriented support, you don't want to spend time stacking and pulling. The exception to that is when you're cutting trees like this, and you can do this. Now, this wastes no time. Like, I don't really give a fuck about getting last hits on these things. It's more important to me that I'm zoning CM out, or zoning the Ench out. If I'm over here doing this with a small camp, then Ench is just against these two. I'm further away. I'm not there to frostbite her and have us do a bunch of damage to her, right? So when you're playing an offense-oriented support, like, you want to go for these as much as possible. As soon as she comes up to contest, we're pinging her, we're like, okay, start going on her. Unfortunately, she is level 3, so we're not going to get that. We're not going to get the kill, but she is going to have to commit Nature's Attendance yet again, and now she has no mana, and this is quite an expensive spell, and she has no mana regen, so it's completely worth it for us to do this. I still have a shitload of Tankos, so I'm completely happy trading my regen for the enemy cores. I don't want my Naga trading her regen for the enemy cores at all, as much as possible. And again, I'm doing this. It actually doesn't stack here, but whatever. And now, the Venge is coming over, which is the enemy's position 5. But look what happened. Naga is level 3, I'm level 3, Ench is level 3, but the Venge is level 1 and barely has any regen and has a fucking Orb of Venom for no goddamn reason. It's probably good against the Axe, but not here. It doesn't do anything here. So again, notice I'm like gladly tanking these two. I'm using my mana, I have Arcane Aura, I have regen. They don't. It's like just a fantastic trade for me. Now, in this situation, there's three places you can play as a support, like here, here, or here. If you're here, it's the safest place to hit the enemy core without drawing creep aggro or taking damage yourself. If you're on the left, however, you can threaten the pull all the time. You can threaten the pull, so you should always play on the left. Harassing the enemy core in this situation, especially if it's something like an Ench or someone really tanky like a Centaur, is not really worth it. Instead, the best possible play is to threaten the pull all the time. And the Venge knows that, and she's like awkwardly like doing footsies with me, but doesn't really matter. Again, no kill opportunity on the Venge there, but I'm just trading my mana for her regen because she barely has any left. And now I'm doing this pull. Pull works. It's very easy to do. Okay, so here's the situation. This situation is very easy for us to play and a lot more awkward and weird for them to play. The reason for that is it's because it's our creeps that are getting denied by the neutrals. And we're also closer to the neutrals in case one of the neutrals gets low and we want to go for a last hit on it, okay? Force this kind of situation as much as you can. It's easy for you to play, awkward for the enemy to play, more likely for them to get out of position and fuck up. Like, let's say the Venge just walks here and then takes a Centaur Stomp or a Hellbear Smash. That very easily leads into a kill, or the Venge just completely running out of regen and getting zoned. But don't worry too much about getting like the denies and last hits on these things. It's like, it's still completely worth it for you to do this. So I'm getting the bounty runes, and yeah, Naga is way more farmed than the PA. We forced the PA to go into the Axe, even though the Axe fed early multiple times. He's now ahead of the PA. That's just a fucking great matchup for Axe. And the Ricky's doing amazing somehow, because he's, I guess, got all the kills top. Yeah, that's the first 5 minutes of this game. A couple awkward situations and how to handle them. Okay, so that was a couple replays and a pretty diverse amount of situations, scenarios, and things like that, but the takeaway you should have is my mentality and the principles I'm playing with are the same across all the replays I just showed you, and all the replays that I can't show you because it would take too much time. And that was only the first 5 minutes of a game. And I've shown you that if you play aggressively, you bring the right items, you know the mechanics, you know how your abilities work, you know how the matchups work, all these different things. You don't have to know all of them, obviously, like, I don't know as much as a higher immortal or pro player, but I know enough that in an even matchup, I can apply these principles and win a lane, or set up a lane for success, even multiple lanes for success, in just 5 minutes. When you show up to that lane, you should be fucking ready to go and win that lane immediately, okay? Playing aggressively is so much easier and actually in some ways safer than playing defensively, because the onus is on the enemy to react in some way to some weird situation that they might not be familiar with or comfortable playing into, and maybe they're playing greedy. Fucking Dota players love playing greedy, and you can punish that. You can take advantage of that. You can play around that. So that was the first 5 minutes, and I contemplated doing the first 10 minutes of a game, but the complexity of like high-level games just explodes after 5 minutes, like when people are doing a bunch of rotation, smokes, like then I would have to get into ward placements and items and shit like that. So I'm not gonna do that, and I think I've shown that in 5 minutes you can win the lane, possibly win the game. But I am gonna talk about item builds a bit, because I feel like this is actually pretty important and pretty easy to cover. So this is kind of specific to Crystal Maiden. The early items you always get are Magic Stick, Tranquil Boots, and a Bracer. You should buy every ward and every sentry and keep smokes below 3 in the shop. You can buy a second Bracer if the situation calls for it. Your first major item almost always is Glimmer or Force Staff. They're both great because they save yourself and your teammates. Obviously, the considerations you make for Glimmer are we already reliant on Invis? Are we going to be over-reliant on Invis? Do they have natural Invis detection like a Zeus? And do they have a bunch of ground-targeted stuns where if I Glimmer myself or an ult, I'm just going to get stunned anyway even though I'm Invis? And of course magic damage. There's like a Pugna, Skywrath, you know, Necrophos, ults, things like that. The Force Staff is an amazing item against melee cores, especially there's a bunch that are popular right now, like Lifestealer, making distance from them for yourself or your teammates. It's also a great positioning tool. These are the two best items you can get. If you can get one of these items before 20 minutes, you're doing fucking amazing, or you're in an incredibly low skill game, or you're taking up too much of your carry's farm, in which case you're in a low skill game. It's the days of getting the current patch, getting these before 20 minutes is amazing, or you're in a dumb game. If you can get them before 30, you're doing fine. You're buying every ward and every fucking sentry and probably making a bunch of space with your deaths. You're doing fine. Less ideal items are Eul's, Blink, and Ghost Scepter. Eul's is a very selfish item and not a good one at that, because you can Eul's an enemy or you can Eul's yourself, but you can't do it to a teammate to save them or bail them out. And like the movement speed and the mana regen are kind of wasted on Crystal Maiden, but obviously there's situations where Eul's might be good. Blink is really greedy, and honestly you're often better getting a Glimmer or Force Staff. And Ghost Scepter has obvious weaknesses, like it's, again, a selfish item, you can't even use it offensively, it's just for yourself, and frankly, you can just die and get your spells off, and maybe like a couple ticks of your ult off, and great. You call that a win. You don't need Ghost Scepter. The god item is BKB, always and forever. CM with a BKB at like 30 to 40 minutes is hilarious, because like, if they don't have a BKB piercing stun, and even if they do, they probably don't want to use it on CM, like, you just get your ult off, you have a shitload of armor, you're magic immune during your ult. The ult does a lot of damage, and I considered making a montage of like ridiculous CM ults I've had in just like 10 games, but I didn't have time, and it's kind of outside the scope of this video, but the god item is BKB. So that's kind of it for this video. Obviously it's very long, and there's a fucking deluge of information in there. Like I said, don't worry about learning each individual thing, but rather learn the common principles behind those things and why they're important. Because that you can apply to more than Crystal Maiden supports. You can apply it to more than just Position 5 support. You can apply it to just like everything in Dota 2. Knowing how to think in one situation can apply to knowing how to think in other situations. And yeah, just adds up. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I hope it was helpful.